Something in my teeth.
Hi.
Without fail. uh,
Hello, everybody. We are 1,000 eyes on one, back with wine on an empty stomach covering storm glass.
by
Quick,
Jeff Wheeler.
quick caveat upstairs, my neighbor seems to be drilling. So if you hear a drilling sound at any point, that's what that is.
Deal with
That's what
it.
that is.
Deal with it. Right. So, Stormglass. This is a book that I read several years ago, and I told Tanya forever that she should read it too. As usual, we always get each other caught up in something that's more than a book. It's never a standalone
Always.
story. Stormglass is 5 books, and it's called the Harbinger series. And this is the first one, and I'm really, really excited to talk about it because I love this world. I love the system of magic. Um, and yeah, Tanya, it's your first read. What did you think?
I enjoyed it a lot. At first, I wasn't quite sure what it was about because I decided not to read a description. I
Good.
decided to just jump in and, just start reading. So I had absolutely no idea what it was about. And when it started and, we're following SETI, I kept wondering, what does Stormglass refer to?
Right.
Um, yeah, I just wasn't sure. And so as I followed through the story, and started kind of getting an idea of what it's about, I still wasn't sure what the hell Stormwatch was until, like,
Yeah,
close to the end
it's
when
close to the end. Yeah.
yeah. And then when I finished it, I just thought to myself, ah, shit, this is another one of those where this is just the very
This
surface.
this is just the surface. I jumped in blind too the first time I read it. I think it was like on either Kindle Unlimited or maybe it was like 199 on Kindle, and I was like, oh, all right, click.
That's how I
And
get a lot of ebooks.
right. And I started reading it on the plane, and I opened it up, and I was just like, no, no, no. I was like, oh, so this is a ghost story. I was like, this is like, it's like feels like a steampunk ghost story
It did.
vibes, right? It's like there's
Yeah.
orphans and they're being like abandoned and abused and neglected. And there's a ghost that comes up and haunts Seti of the Fells. That's one of our protagonists. Um, and I didn't really know where it was going. I was really hoping that she would get rescued from this terrible situation. But I didn't expect that she actually would.
Yeah, especially so soon. And I thought that it was going to be more about her and Jose's.
Hmm.
Also, it reminded me of that Matt Damon movie, Elysium.
Matt Damon.
Matt Damon. Because I can't really remember the plot of that movie, but I do remember that, like, all of, like, the poor commoners lived on the ground and the rich people had all
Mm.
escaped to the sky. Oh,
Oh, I don't know that movie.
yeah, I can't remember it, so I can't tell you if it's good or not,
Yeah.
but
Well, I
I
guess
know that that was a thing in it.
yeah, I guess that we should, since you're talking about that, we should kind of set up the world a bit. As Tanya was saying, there are two worlds, right? The poor people live on the bottom, like they live on like Earth after all the industry has kind of polluted it everywhere. It's the worst place, and the people who are privileged and wealthy, they live above in the clouds, like literally. Basically, they live on pieces of land that they have somehow elevated to the sky in sky manners. Um, and the mode of transportation is sky ships. They have different classes of sky ships, but yeah, basically the rich people live in the sky, the poor people live on the ground in squalor, and the powers that be are trying very hard to keep those two levels of society separate. They're it's like government. They're trying to oppress the poor, keep them down, that kind of vibe.
Mhm.
But I think what was also really interesting about this is that even if you're wealthy, you might not stay in your sky manor forever, right? The economic system is such that often people with a lot of money incur lots of debts, and they get into schemes, like get rich quick schemes, to try to um, solve these, to solve these debts. They have like loan sharks, and if they go bankrupt, their sky manor can come crashing to the ground.
It's the worst HOA of all time.
Right? It's terrible. And not only can it come crashing to the ground, but it can kill the people who are living underneath them because they're
Yeah.
not all above uninhabited areas.
Quick
Terrible.
question. What are you
Yes.
drinking?
Water.
Oh, good for you. Nice and healthy. I'm drinking rosé.
Yeah, I had an Aperol spritz last night that went to my head and took me a little while to get over this morning. It was a frozen Aperol spritz though.
Ooh, I've never had that.
It was delicious. Delicious. I'm wondering if they put other stuff in it, but yeah, I was
Probably.
very happy. Yeah, maybe there was.
Like that frosé we found out had vodka in it.
Shout out to Inga Company for throwing this party at Elsewhere last night. That was the best party, second best party of the no, first best party of there's ooh, see that rose Aperol Spritz is still working on me, but one of their best parties. Good job. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so rich, poor, speculation, sky manners, and we've got Seti of the Fells,
This
who
poor orphan girl, foster child. The talk about the deed system.
oh my goodness. So in the poor, in this, in it's not. I'm trying to think. It's kind of like indentured servitude, right? So when poor people or rich people get into too much money, what they can do is basically lease out their children for a certain number of years. And the person that they're leasing out has like basically has control of that child. Sometimes it's like 7 years, sometimes it's 20, 25 years until they pay off their debt or a portion of it.
Mhm.
And so Seti has a deed, and all the children have deeds. And Seti is living in like this orphanage run by Miss owned by Miss Charlotte, and she's got the deeds to all of these children. And we find out the only way that you can control these people is to have the deeds. So there's always this level of like authenticating them and making sure that that they are authentic, right? And if you want to get rid of them, you can buy them out. So what ends up happening is that Seti's deed gets bought out by her savior, Brent Fitzroy.
I actually felt bad for all the kids that like didn't leave with her because she left the same night.
She left the same night.
So like she
Yeah.
just kind of bounced.
Basically what happens is that the ghost is haunting her. They storm Joseph, Steady's homeboy, gets caught stealing because he's trying to bring food back to the kids because they haven't eaten in days. um, and they follow him, they figure out where he's living, and they the law, the police come in and they're like, hey, what the hell is going on? Why are you neglecting these children? How can you keep them in these conditions? They obviously look like they haven't eaten in days.
Mhm.
And so, you know, Seti's there watching the children. The tall ghost with no eyes comes up
Ugh.
to haunt her. I can't. If I saw that on screen, I'd just be like, "How are they doing this tall ghost?" Right? Um, and comes up to haunt her, and they go to get. I don't know. I think if he was serving as a magistrate, they go to get a leader who comes back and talks to Miss Charlotte. Says, "Prove to us that you have the deeds for these children, or we're taking them all away, and we're going to prosecute you." And when he comes into the room where Seti is staying, he senses the ghost too, and the ghost senses him and hates him immediately. And by some magical power, he makes it go away. And Seti can feel that.
And this magic is called the mysteries.
The
You go to
mystery.
school and learn them, and you can't share the secrets with anyone. And there's different ones. There's mystery of law,
Mm-hmm.
mystery of wind,
Your
mystery
war.
of war.
Mm-hmm. I have to look up what the other ones are.
What was the other one? Stop tapping.
Storm glass.
Are you typing?
I am.
Oh, that's what that sound was.
Mysteries. Let's see. I don't have them they're listed out, but oh, maybe here. But yeah, so basically, there are these magical secrets that you have to get educated in. Um, we found out later in the book that anybody who wants to go to school has access to go to school and can learn the
Mhm.
mysteries. But the wealthy in society keep that a secret because they don't want to be overrun by poor people knowing the mysteries. And the mysteries involve everything from being able to light your house,
Mhm.
being able to control everything in your house from music, um, understanding how law works, understanding the science of flying these airships. Um, yeah, it's really, really fun. And we find out that um, most people need to be initiated into them and educated about them. But SETI is kind of, the force is strong with her.
Yeah.
And she
Yeah.
feels these things happening. She keeps saying that she feels like tugging on her awareness, this like these, I don't know, just like a force. And she doesn't know what it is and doesn't realize that she's kind of already senses the mysteries and can control them to a certain degree. Hmm. That was SETI.
Seti the Wunderkind.
Yeah, for real. Then we have so the story is like twofold, right? We've got Seti on one hand, who's like living in the gutter, gets adopted, the orphan that gets adopted, or no, that whose deed gets paid off by Fitzroy and brought to his family. And then we have Sarah Fitzempress.
Yes, Sarah, short for Seraphim.
Hmm.
This poor princess in the tower. Mommy and daddy don't let her go outside. She has no friends. She doesn't even see her cousins. It's just her and her governess, Hugild. And that's kind of it. Her dad's kind of a jerk.
Both of her parents are a little bit jerky, but her dad is a bigger jerk.
Her mom definitely gives off Valium mom. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like she just
totally.
drinks Chardonnay, drinks a bottle of Chardonnay and takes a Valium before bed.
Hmm.
Like she's definitely giving that.
Yeah,
Like
totally.
take Xanax all day and then Valium before bed.
Yeah, just to
And
deal with, her husband. And this family is important because the ruling government. There's an emperor, and this is his royal line.
mhm.
So he's got three sons. Sarah Finn's dad is one of them, and she is basically the next in line after him.
Because his
Um,
brothers are buffoons.
Buffoons and gamblers, and nobody wants them to be in power because
No.
obviously, who would want that? Um, but what's interesting is that the line isn't bequeathed directly. The emperor can choose who is going to be next in line.
Hmm.
Um, and so he has a stroke or something, um,
Apoplexy.
apoplexy, and they realize that, oh, we need to figure out who's going to rule next. We think it's going to be Seraphim, but because she's not of age, they're both only 12. They need a prince regent. She needs a regent, and so they choose her dad.
Who is such a dick.
He's like the power goes to his head like really, really
Immediately, he
quickly.
starts war campaigns. He just starts trying to ruin people's lives. Anyone who wrongs
Mhm.
him, he does
Yeah,
favors for anyone who flatters him. Like
yeah,
he immediately goes into tyrant mode as soon as he gets
totally.
that bit of power.
Like he
And
wrangles a high salary for him, higher than anyone else ever
yeah,
had.
higher than anyone else ever had. And he also is the person who gets to tap who becomes the next prime minister. He chooses Grant Fitzroy. His uh, rule or his caveat is that he has to get rid of SETI because in
Yes,
that society they find people below them to be really below them, like
yeah.
shamefully below them. And
It's a
so for
scandal.
it's a scandal that he's taken in a girl from the Fells. Like you just don't do that. The Fells also has a lottery where people can get the opportunity to go into a Sky Manor and work there as a servant, and it's like a really really big deal to be able to get that kind
Yeah,
of opportunity.
yep.
But other than that, the people below like just don't even exist to them. And so him taking Inseti becomes a huge scandal, and the new Prince Regent demands that he get rid of her, and he chooses not to,
He chooses not
which
to because he is a man of honor.
he's a man
Right?
of honor and of morals.
Yeah. And so we've got I keep forgetting her father's name, but we'll just call him the Prince Regent, who's
Mhm.
basically kept her isolated her whole life, as Tanya was saying. She's not allowed to go anywhere to do anything. She's got her governess who guild, and then when they figure out that she might be next in line, oh, and let's just call her, she's a troll.
Oh,
Because she's
absolutely.
bored. She's like the biggest troll in the land. She's always provoking. her, her parents. She's always provoking her governess because she has no one else to play with,
Yeah,
really. She's not allowed to be with other kids her own age.
she's 12 and her governess is 40, and that's her
Yeah.
only friend,
Yeah.
a 40-year-old woman.
Yes. So after they realize that she could be next in line, they decide that it's time to start her education.
At 12.
And they
Like,
wonder
talk
why she
about
daydreams
shameful.
all day, right?
Yeah. What was I about to say? Oh, we didn't talk about Mrs. Pullman.
No, we're gonna get there because,
Okay.
yeah. So we basically, the book goes back and forth between between the POVs of both Sarah and Seti, and yeah, you think that this is gonna be a happy story of adoption, and like deed buying for Seti. She's on the come up, but she encounters Mrs. Pullman.
Mrs. Pullman, who is a witch with a capital B.
Yes.
She absolutely upholds all of like the high society ideals.
Hmm.
She
She,
doesn't want Fitzroy to shame himself by associating with anyone lesser. Even his wife, she considers lesser because her mother was disinherited. And so, she's not even worthy of him. And
yeah. And she's got like career goals for him. She wants him
the
to
prime
be prime
minister.
minister.
Mhm.
She served under Fitzroy's father brought her in, and she wants to kind of continue that the way that he was running things. She's a keeper of the keys, which is, we find out later, a really really important and
She
and
controls the
powerful
manor.
position. Right? She's
Mhm.
got access to all the magic in the house.
Yeah.
And from the jump, when she brings Seti in, she's like, "Oh, and I will take care of her myself." And because to the family, she's like perfection. She's on point. She does a really good job taking care of them. So she brings Seti to her rooms, and Seti comes into this wonderful room that's like more luxurious than anything she's ever seen. It's got windows and it's warm and it's light. And Miss Pullman is like, "Oh no, this is not your room. This is my room. You're gonna sleep in the garret."
Which is so dirty. Like,
Yeah.
it's such a filthy thing to do to a child. And Fitzroy's thinking, "Oh yeah, just give her a room." And she's like, "Oh,
Yeah.
keep her with me." So he's thinking she's like sleeping in bed with Mrs. Pullman, and Mrs. Pullman is seeing to all of her needs. Meanwhile, she's
Yeah.
in an attic that was worse than the one she got out of,
Yeah. And also haunted.
and also haunted, which we do get into later with Miss Pullman and her friendliness with ghosts.
Hmm. Miss Co-conspirator. Um, so we meet Fitzroy's family. He's got three kids, all of whose names I forget.
Oh, Seraphinia,
Who they goes by
Feliciana,
Finia,
who goes by
Feliciana.
Finia, Feliciana, who goes by Anna, and Stephen.
Yes. Anna is a little lonely child, very quiet, very shy. She takes to Seti right away. Stephen and Phinia, they at first seem to be open to her, even though they're kind of like a little bit snobby, until they catch Seti in a lie about what her father did for work.
Yeah. And then they really become jerks to her. They're very snooty and kind of take more after their grandfather, despite their
Hmm.
father trying his best to instill his morals.
Yeah.
And the mother's name was
Mara, Mara, Mara,
Mara.
Mara. Yeah.
Yeah. She seems like a really
Oh,
kind
sorry,
lady too.
Marin. Marin.
Marin. She
Yeah.
seems like a really kind lady too. She takes to Seti as well and just kind of accepts her as another daughter.
Yeah.
Stephen and Phinia, they kind of bully Seti. They're mean to her. And it's kind of under the guise of like just teasing,
Yeah.
but they get on her for not understanding social mores that she never learned.
Yeah.
And also, like, they give off strong incest vibes, and
Do
it
you
could.
think so? What?
Yeah, I got such strong incest vibes from them, and I'm like, maybe I'm just ruined by George, but I don't know.
Wow.
I
I
got
didn't
really
read that
strong
at
incest.
all.
Really?
No, I just
Ah,
thought that, like, he was the older brother. It was, for me, it gave a little bit of like a Von Trapp children.
it was giving Cruel Intentions for me.
Ah!
It was giving Cruel
They said
Intentions.
it's flowers in the flowers in the sky
Flowers in
matter.
the attic, yeah. Yeah, I don't know, I just got that vibe from them, like, there's something
Interesting.
more that was a little skeevy, like, maybe they haven't done anything, but, like, kinda
Hmm.
like they might be a little bit in love with each other.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Maybe it's
they were
also the
definitely giving.
isolation because we don't get them really socializing with. It's like people in the Sky Miners. It looks like they kind of keep to themselves, and it's not that Sarah is just the only one who's isolated.
Right,
Like they
but
travel a little bit, but
Steven and Phineas have each other, though,
yeah,
and Anna didn't have anyone, but they at
oh,
least let them leave the house, they go to balls
yeah.
and, things like that. Do you wanna talk about the Harding ball since I mentioned balls?
The
Ball.
Harding Ball. So I forgot what his first name is, but Harding comes to the house one day and wants to meet with Fitzroy. He's in financial troubles, right?
Mhm,
And he's basically asking his advice on a speculation, a deal that might basically solve all his problems. Fitzroy advises him against it.
mhm.
Fast forward, the Hardings are having a ball, and Fitzroy's like, "Hey, I thought y'all had money problems." Right? Like y'all are throwing a ball, and so of course they went. They go to the ball. They take Steady to the ball. She's super surprised that she gets to go too. Mrs. Pullman
It's
says,
pissed.
"Hey, don't, don't, don't. When you're gonna come right back here and don't act out. Blah blah blah. I'm keeping my eye on you because somehow magically she knows every move that Steady makes."
Mhm.
Um, and so they go to this ball, and suddenly, well, there's a lot of things that's happening, right? It's a high society ball, so there's gossip happening, there's children dancing, and this couple walks in. It's like the highest power richest couple in I don't know what their world is called, actually, now that I'm thinking
Pavenham
about it.
Sky.
Pavenham Sky, but I'm talking about their whole planet.
I don't know.
I have to look that up. But the Pavenham Sky rich people come, that couple, and whew, it causes quite a stir. Everything is suddenly the height of propriety, and we find out soon that they're not there, you know, to socialize. They're there to, let's say, rescue the day, that in a way that was very calculated.
A
While the dance is going
AK
on,
AKA exploit the
ex-
Hardings
yeah,
financial situation.
extort maybe is even better,
Yeah,
right?
extort, yeah.
Um, because while the dance is going on, suddenly the lights flicker and the Sky Manor starts to sink. And we find out through SETI, actually, we find out she's suddenly tuned into the house. She's able to hear things and feel things um, that she didn't experience before. She said she was feeling as if the house were talking to her.
Mhm,
Um, and we find out very soon that because Hardings have gone bankrupt, they have broken the covenant with the house that keeps it afloat in the sky. And in order to keep everybody alive and keep the manor from crashing to the ground, they need someone to come in and take over the debt, basically buy it out from them. So they
well,
have to
here
sell their
comes the
manor.
family from Pavenham Sky. Who's gonna buy their manor, buy their debt, and rent out the manor.
Yeah.
And where do they go? I don't know. No
where
idea.
where do they go? They end up going to their house is called Gimmerton, so but they end up going to where the mines are. They go to the mines and end up working in Fitzroy's silver mine, which has been the reason he's been able to keep his mansion afloat.
And Fitzroy doesn't have debts
He doesn't
because
have debts
he's very smart about his money.
and has been avoiding speculations and getting caught in these schemes. But we find out that Fitzroy's hold on, I can hear myself. We find out that Fitzroy's silver mine has only started producing quicksilver. Like the silver has gone dry, and all they have is quicksilver. Um, and that's where we find out that Seti's kind of got a mind for science because Fitzroy in his office shows him a little bit of quicksilver in a glass that his wife has given him as a gift because that's what the mine is producing. And he says to her, I don't know why, but like the levels of it go up and down. I haven't figured out like what's causing this. Um, and Seti decides, hey, that's kind of really cool. I'm going to start keeping notes of it. So she gets a little notebook and she starts like tracking the levels of the quicksilver. But nobody at this point understands what's causing it to go. And we find out that, Fitzroy buying Seti's deed has actually put him in financial problems. He gets refused, he turns down the prime minister position, which puts him in greater financial trouble. Because it would have solved all their problems. But because he's now bought Seti's deed, because he's looking for her parents, because he can't adopt, he can buy her deed, but he was not able to adopt her without the consent of both of her parents. And so he's burning a lot of cash. He's got to send his kids to school, and all he has in this mine is quicksilver that they consider useless at this point.
So like I was like, is quick when we find out why the quicksilver is moving, I was like, is that mercury?
Yes, yes, it
And then there's the
is.
guy who decided to taste it on a bet and it killed him.
It
So I was
killed
like, oh my
him.
God, quicksilver is mercury, basically.
What I found out in my digging is that, hold on. Robert Fitzroy is an actual person who is considered, he's the one who invented the barometer.
Really?
Yeah, so Fitzroy actually is comes from a real person, and
Huh.
he was able to predict storms up to 48 hours in advance, and is basically, I don't want to call him the father of meteorology, but kind of is. Yeah. So
That's really
he would like put
interesting.
them out on boats, and I was like, look at that.
That's
Yeah,
really interesting.
yeah. So he basically would arrange for captains of ships to take these storm glasses, that's what they call them, storm glasses, out with them to sea, so they could track weather and protect themselves from storms.
Very cool.
Yeah,
Very cool.
it's my fun fact.
I appreciated it. I enjoyed it very much.
Yeah. Let's go back to Mrs. Pullman and her devious
I was
ways.
just about to say, let's talk about that hoe.
Mrs. Pullman is evil. Like, we know that, right? She's keeping Seti away in the attic, essentially,
You
and
know,
she's so two faced.
the her description of being austere and being, buttoned up to the throat and all that stuff, it made me think of you've seen Corpse Bride?
Yes. Oh yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
The
yeah,
mom.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's who I pictured the whole time was the mom from Corpse Bride.
I picture the grandmother from Flowers in the Attic.
Mm. I try
Yeah.
not to think about flowers in the attic. Eat the cookie.
uh, that series is just like, it's so good and just so terrible. It's I read all of them and all the prequels
I
and
have
some of the
not.
ones, and it's just like, whew, whew, okay. It's just like, we get on George for incest, but like this is a whole other level.
Yeah.
It really is. And it's not just like within the twin situation, right? It's like cousin, it's a whole half sisters, half.
Aunt and niece and
Yeah,
I mean uncle niece.
it gets heavy. But it is a really good series if you want to be disturbed on a Sunday. Yeah, so Mrs. Miss Pullman, right? Evil, evil bitch. She tells Seti, every move you make, I will be watching you. If you speak out against me, I will know. Seti has no idea how she knows, but Miss Pullman starts giving her accounts of her whole day. It's like, I saw you do this, and how dare you that? And she's like, oh shit, no, this woman is really, she's really watching me, and she's
She has a she's
terrifies the
watching
whole.
her with 1,000 eyes in one.
Zing. Yeah. Yeah, Mrs. Pullman is terrible. Oh, message.
All right, you go ahead. I'm gonna see who's ringing my doorbell.
Yes. All right, so Miss Pullman is, like we said, she's terrible. She's controlling, we find out that she is controlling the ghost. She somehow summons the ghost that used to haunt Seti, that she thought that she was rid of thanks to Fitzroy. And she's summoned it and sending it after her night after night after night. What Seti knew, when she was in the fells, is that when she had the children around her, that the ghost couldn't get to her, but now she doesn't have these children around to protect her. It's just her by her lonesome. And she's constantly getting attacked by the ghost that Miss Pullman sends up. We also find out that Miss Pullman is not only torturing Seti with this ghost, she's torturing Anna, who can't see them. They think that she's having night terrors and that she's had them since she was a child. And I'm not really sure what Miss Pullman's beef is against Anna, but yeah, she's terrorizing the poor girl. And so at night she's like wreaking havoc in poor Seti's life, and then during the day being prim and proper and so kind to everyone. Um, and so nobody would ever think that the keeper is the one who's causing distress. Not only Seti, but Anna, and later we find out also they're her mom, Marin,
And all the servants.
and all the servants. She keeps sending people away to the fells that who like disagree with her or speak out against her. We find out that she has the power to like snatch people's voices like Ursula. Like it's
Hmm.
wild what she's able to do.
She's very evil. Um, we didn't mention that Marin is sickly. So the
Yeah.
entire time, Marin is just like a sickly lady. She's always kind of just laying on the couch, very weak. Even when she's going to the ball, you
Mm-hmm.
know, Mrs. Pullman is saying, well, if you start to feel too bad, just come on home and bring the girls with you.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's crazy because Miss Pullman is always like petting Marin, and like it makes it look she's taking care of her, and you're just like she's just working that voodoo upon her like
Hmm.
contact
All
dermatitis.
because she all, all because she doesn't think that Marin is worthy of Fitzroy. And
Exactly.
I wondered what her end game was. Was it so that Fitzroy leaves her because she's sickly? Was it so that she eventually dies? I wasn't really clear on what her end game was with Marin.
Read book two. Miss Pullman is back and
uh,
Mirrorgate. Yeah. Um, but it's basically Miss Pullman is punishing Marin for being an embarrassment and a source of scandal to Fitzroy, because he rescues her from her disgrace. We find out at the ball because Seti is like tapping into her magical powers suddenly and is able to project her hearing and eavesdrop on people. That what happened? Well, they hint at the scandal that she disgraced herself by throwing herself after a man who was engaged. We find out later from Fitzroy that he fell in love with someone who was below his station, and that Marin was also, I don't know how to chase it after she was longing for a man who kind of like, you know,
he was kind of a
strung her
slut.
along. Yeah. He was a cad.
He was a cad who ended
He
up
was a cad
marrying someone else for money.
for money. He basically after his her mom got disinherited, he was like, "Oh, next." Um, and so at a ball, she approached him, and it caused quite the scandal. Yeah, because Fitzroy had kind of like grown fond of Marin, and basically to save her reputation, he did the honorable thing and made her his wife.
Now, Fitzroy, the woman below his station who he fell in love with, was a woman whose deed his father owned.
Hmm.
And when he realized that she didn't really want anything from him, but he kind of fell in love with her. And
Yeah, she was
when
older.
when his father realized that Fitzroy was falling in love with her and that he intended to court her, despite him explicitly telling him he couldn't,
Yeah,
he had her sent to the fells. And Mrs.
dismissed.
Pullman agreed.
Miss Pullman agreed. And I think we should talk about so Seti and Fitzroy. The first time they met, they felt drawn to each other, right?
Hmm.
They kind of like she doesn't know, but there's like a sense of recognition, and he feels really something strong about her too. And he's just so super kind, you know. Seti is kind of the whole time that she's there, waiting for the other shoe to drop, waiting for somebody to turn cruel to her,
Yeah.
besides Mrs. Pullman, and he just is consistently kind. And you know, we find out later that maybe she's like, is that his daughter? Maybe she is.
Well, no, they think that it's the daughter of the woman he loved because
Yeah.
she wouldn't be the right age to be his daughter.
Oh yeah, that's right. Sorry.
Yeah. So they're thinking it could be the daughter of the woman he loved.
Yeah.
And we meet her
Christina.
And we meet her father, who doesn't even know who he had a baby with. The baby just showed up on his doorstep after he slept with a woman with a mask, a veil
A
on.
veil. I was like, was this a prostitute? What
Yeah,
is
I didn't
going on?
understand that it either. Like, were you
Was
at a
she in a
sex
pleasure
party?
house? Right? Like, what is this? It's a key party. Like, what was going on? I don't know. I still don't understand that. But basically, in order to adopt Seti, they find her. You know, he hires advocates who are lawyers to find Seti's parents. They track down this man, and Seti, when she sees him, she says she feels a glimmer of recognition, but the
Because of
man
the
comes
uniform.
in and he won't even look at her.
Hmm.
He won't make eye contact to her. What do you think about that? Do you think that was like really her dad, or do you think that was like, you know, a setup?
I think that he believes he's her dad. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I definitely think he believes he's her dad. But the conversation, we didn't talk about the conversation that we overhear with Corinne from Pavenham Sky and
Mm-hmm.
the Prince Regent,
Yeah.
where they're talking about finding Seti's parents and how the man got details wrong.
Right.
So it's possible that he's been set up.
Yeah, he's a plant. They're like,
Yeah.
hey, we'll give you money. Just say this, and she's this old, and let
See,
the
but
mother be a mystery.
I got the idea that he maybe doesn't know like that he's been set up.
Oh yeah, I don't think he does.
I think that he thinks that Seti's his daughter,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe someone told him that that's his daughter. Like a baby showed up on his doorstep, he sold that baby's deed,
Yeah.
and he's being told that Seti is that baby. So I do
Right.
think a baby showed up on his doorstep. He couldn't raise
Mm-hmm.
it, so he sold it. And I think that he truly believes that Seti's his daughter. He seems so embarrassed, by
Yeah.
the misdeeds of his youth. Getting a woman he doesn't even know pregnant, a woman whose voice and name he doesn't even know.
Which is, like I said, embarrassing and scandalous for him too, because he was someone who was in the army, or
Hmm.
he was in
Something in the military.
something he was in the military, and he married his landlord's daughter, so he would have a place to live because he's
He
in
was,
debt, like
he was a
severely in debt.
hobosexual.
Oh yes, I always forget about that term, and it makes me laugh every time.
Yeah, he was a hobosexual. So
Oh,
yeah. And she's like 20. So they knew
yeah.
that wasn't Seti's mother.
They're like, oh, he's in his 30s, and she's much younger than him, and I took that personally.
Well, they didn't say where in his 30s. They
Yeah.
just said well into his 30s. She's 20. Which, yeah, it is. She's a little young for
Ageist.
him.
Yeah.
She's a
Um,
little young for him.
yeah. So I think that you're right that he believes that. I think they must have basically. I think Lady Corinne has little birds around everywhere,
Hmm.
because she is the gossip. She was reminding me, what's the woman from Bridgerton that knows all the
Queen, I
tea?
think it was Queen Charlotte. Was that
No, no,
it?
no. The one who was writing the letter.
Oh, I don't know. I didn't watch it.
I only watched a little bit of it. Whatever. The pen lady who's like telling everybody's business in the streets. She felt kind of like that. Like she's a whisperer
Mm.
of the sky manners. So I think it wouldn't be hard for her to find the information. Like how, I mean, I'm sure that somebody finding a baby on their doorstep is not an uncommon thing, considering the lack of education and opportunity that people have down there. Um, so yeah, I believe that he thought it was his kid, but I don't think that she really is. I think it was just an opportunistic ploy to bring down Fitzroy,
I
to
don't even
punish him.
know. I don't even know if Seti is the baby that was left on his doorstep.
That's what I'm saying. Could have been any
Yeah.
kid. I just got the craving for fried chicken so bad. It's so random. I'm hungry. Anyway, let's go back to Sarah.
Sarah Fitz Empress with no friends
No
except Who
plans
Guild.
except who guilt until one day
She meets Will,
a little hottie.
a little hottie who's uh, one of her tutors has the deed for Will, so he brings him along. And she's just, I don't even think she was necessarily in love with Will. She was just so excited to have somebody close to her age around.
Yeah, she's like, it's another kid. Ah, and this is the most contact she's ever had with another person under 40.
Yeah.
So she is really excited that he's there. Um, and so they are taking classes together. They're getting tutored. He's giving her looks, like, because he's curious about her. She's giving him looks because she's just like, who is this person? But I think that there's a power dynamic here that is subtly acknowledged, right? Because
Mhm.
this Sarah is like daydreaming in classes because she's never been to school before. She can't keep her mind on one thing, and
Mhm.
like she didn't have that training where they break your spirit in like the age of 5 or 6 to sit still all day, um, and she's having a hard time. But her tutors, as much as they're frustrated with her, they're enduring it because she might be the empress one day,
Mhm.
right? Right. So Will and I forgot his name, the hat. Um, they have to also
I don't
entertain
remember.
her because she might be the empress one day. Um, and we find out that she's also, it's not that she's not interested in these things, it's just she doesn't see any practical applications to what they're teaching her. They're giving her all theory, and because she's never left her house,
Barely
she
even
doesn't know what
theory.
to do
It's
it.
just they're just reading off facts.
Yeah. Which is like, it's super dry. She hates it.
Yeah.
Um, we also see that she's unlike, she has a she reminds me of Ariel. She's got a curiosity for this other world. She wants to know how it works because she's not a part of it. And she's very curious about the lives that people are leading down in the fells because they will one day be her subjects, maybe. She doesn't know that they're living in such squalor. She doesn't know that people are chalking up their beliefs in ghosts and stuff to superstition. Um, but when she hears about this, she does think it's unjust and unfair, and she wants to change that. And her daddy is like, that is not the natural order of things.
Right. And which is why they keep her so ignorant,
Yeah,
because they want her just to follow along, do what she's told,
be a puppet
and be a puppet.
like her dad is.
Yeah, her it's like her dad's a buffoon too. He's a
Yeah,
buffoon who's a tyrant. That might be more dangerous.
you've
You
seen
know,
that before.
um
Yeah.
so her father is claiming, the prince
Oh
regent is
yeah.
claiming that Sarah is not his child, that his lady wife had an affair.
Hmm.
Now, there doesn't seem to be any proof of this.
Yeah, no, he's
And
getting
he's
really power hungry and she's in his way.
right, he's worried that she could be chosen instead of him despite her age. So he needs to disinherit her, and the only way he can is to claim she's not his. So and to leave his wife, set her aside, and get another wife.
Right.
She's owed what they call a wife portion, which I call alimony. So
Yes.
he still has to pay her,
How
and he
did
just,
you let me
huh?
ask you, I want to know, how did you feel when the advocate came, the minister of law came and was like, "Hey, so I know you're trying to do all these things, but that shit's not legal."
I loved it. I loved it because it was very obvious to me. I mean, I think the that Jeff Wheeler makes it come through that he
Mhm.
thinks he's an idiot and a tyrant too,
Yeah.
but he's also the prince regent, so he has to be careful with his words. And so instead of saying like, you idiot, you can't do any of this, he's like, oh, I understand where you're coming from, and I really wish you could. It's just that this will happen. And it's like,
Mhm.
oh, I know, what a travesty. But you know what I mean? It's like
Right.
he's so fake, but because the prince regent is such a buffoon, he doesn't even catch on. Even Sarah catches on
Yeah.
that he's just pretending to be on his side so that he can give him this news and tell him, no, you can't do that,
Yeah.
without getting him upset. And then he also thinks that this what is he, minister of laws or something like
Mhm.
that, that he's going to represent him. And it's like, no, I'd love to, but I had to give up my private practice, so
Yeah.
I had to delegate my duties to someone else. Darn, I
Yeah.
really wish I could have.
I think I remember, well, the first time I read it, because the Prince Regent, at first he comes across as, he doesn't come off as like a buffoon initially, right?
No.
It seems like he's on top of his game. It seems like he knows how things work.
He just
But
seemed
then you find
miserly.
out that he's like, exactly. But then you find out that he actually has no concept or understanding of the laws and how these things work. You know, he's trying
Hmm.
to disinherit Sarah. He's trying to keep her from getting educated. He's trying to do all these things. And like, actually, your power is not absolute.
And
You have to
yeah, and I was
answer
gonna
to
say
someone.
he believes that he thought that he's gets absolute power once he
Yeah.
becomes the emperor. He has no idea how any of this works. Um,
Yeah.
so it's like so despite his education, he still has no idea how any of this works, which you've also seen. God.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah. You
he's a
know what? Go ahead.
I was just gonna say that it reminds me of when Sarah's lawyer tells her that he gives in to whoever flatters him the most. So he's not
Mm-hmm.
interested in even learning about these laws. He
Yeah.
just wants to give orders and wants things to be done because he gave the order. He wants to ruin lives of people who, disobey him. And he didn't even know that he can be set aside by the government.
Right. Right. They're like, oh, we could choose somebody else if you're breaking the law. And he's like, oh,
Right.
what? Sputtering like he can't believe it.
Yeah.
Um, you were saying something about how Jeff Wheeler allows he gets these things to come through, communicates them like rather subtly.
Hmm.
Something that I noticed, I think this is maybe the third time I've read the book, is that he's also really good at foreshadowing things to happen by making casual mention of them like earlier on, right? So he like alludes to like the mysteries and the power in the house. He We know that Seraphim is going to come into her power. We find out there's just I can't I've had a specific example, but it's run away from my brain. But I really enjoyed how he did that. Like we can talk about when we went to the Miles at Dalcoath. Fitzroy brings them down to give Seti a look at the mines. She gets to see where um Shiza, what's the name of their manor?
I don't recall.
Lord have mercy. My memory is really bad this today. Basically, she sees where the manor came out of the stone, while Fitzroy is inspecting his silver mines because they have stopped producing silver. They go on this walk. They go on this walk, and there is this cave. And Seti is like in awe of the natural beauty. She bends down to like put her fingers in this mountain stream, and then she gets stuck because she hears a voice calling to her from this cave inside of her head. And she becomes so afraid. I was like,
That
oh,
was
the horror
really
element in
scary.
back. It's really scary.
It's
Because you're
really
just
scary,
like
and it reminded
imagining,
me.
I was gonna
I
say,
was
you're
gonna
just
say it
imagining
reminds me of. Sorry, go ahead. Sorry,
like you're
go
just
ahead.
imagining the mouth to this cage with this deep darkness and
Hmm.
just
And
like
the
something is
falls coming
emanating it
down.
from it. Oh,
So it's like,
what
what's
does it
behind
remind
that
you of?
curtain of water? Oh, I was gonna say it reminds me of people describing the feeling they get when they're at the edge of like a tall building or something, where you suddenly have that pull to jump to just see what happens. Have you
Oh,
ever heard about that?
I have heard of that. It reminds
Yeah.
me, what's her name? Tenerife Do. She's got a
Hmm.
story of a cave where people are wandering deeper and deeper into it, and I think it turns out being like a frog-like something, whatever
Oh
monster.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. We've read that. What was that?
is
We
that My
read that a
Soul to
while
Keep? Not My
ago.
Soul to Keep. Yeah,
No, it's not My
um,
Soul to Keep. I
it's one of
think
the
it might have
short
been a short
stories.
story.
I
Yeah.
think it's in Black. How long till Black Future Month?
Maybe. Yeah,
Yeah,
it was definitely a short story.
yeah. But it reminded me of that. There's like this cave, and there's this evil that's emanating from it, and we don't know what it is, but it keeps asking her to release it.
That's so
Say the
like that
words
was
and
so
set me
scary.
free. It also reminds me of something else. What else did we read where somebody's being asked to release something? It'll come back to me.
I don't know.
Hmm.
But it turns out
Yes.
to be an actual monster
Actual monster.
that gets free and comes to like
Ooh.
kill people, and we have
Yeah.
to shoot it. and
They
wounded.
have to shoot. And it's funny because they try to play it off in the beginning when they like mention it that it's just superstition and that's why people like go inside at night and
Yeah.
they don't hang out because oh it's a monster. It's the suspicions of the miners and their families. Like, nah, you don't have
Yeah.
to worry about that. It turns out that shit was for real. And
Absolutely
they
real.
have to hunt it because it's like coming into the village. I think that like more than Mrs. Pullman and her ghost, that part was the scariest part of the book for me. And it's like you're forgetting that there are these other forces at work until that happens. Like, you
And
know,
it's also
we
terrifying because it's not resolved.
no, no.
We don't get a resolution to that in this first book. So that's terrifying too. I can't wait
Yeah.
to read the next one.
I can't wait for you to read
I
the next
can't
one
wait to
either.
read it. I was supposed to wait for somebody to buy it for my birthday. I put it on my birthday wish list and I accidentally bought it myself. So so I put the rest of the series on my birthday wish list. Um
If you'd
oh, I
like to
should
buy
post it.
books for Tanya's birthday list wish list,
Let's see.
we'll
Let me
drop it in the
find it.
chat.
Let me find it right now.
Yeah. Uh, this book is so adventurous. I don't really want to spoil the end of it because I feel like people should read it because it is
That's
really
cool.
fun. It is really fun, and I thought that this was the book. Just so Jeff Wheeler books. There's the Harbinger series, right? There's the King Fountain series, which is also one of my favorite series. The system of magic. It's kind of similar to how the mysteries work, except it happens like in water. Like water is the magic thing, and it gets really really interesting. Um, but he has a way. First of all, I think his characters are very rich, right? He writes women really well, which I don't always expect from male authors.
Mm.
Um, but I think in every book that comes next, he breaks my heart to the point that I actually cry. And yeah, I thought that happened in this book, but I believe it's either the next one or third one. But like every book after this, I like was weeping. And then he like builds you back
This
up
is my
and like
first Jeff Wheeler book.
uh I want you to read the King Fountain series. It's so good. It's got like I don't even know how many books it is anymore. I think it's like 7 or 8. It's got prequels and things. But this is like similar to Brandon Sanderson. Ding ding ding.
You get a
This is a
Wheeler
whole
Lanch.
you get a Wheeler Lynch, but also these things are all happening within this world, right? So like the prequels, like there's Muirwood Abbey series. There's the ones that talk about the history of the first Empress.
Hmm.
Yeah, oh, it's so good, so good.
I posted
Yeah,
my wish list in the comments.
please
Just
buy
in
Tanya
case,
stuff.
just in case someone wants to buy me books. I put
Yeah.
a whole bunch on there. Actually, I didn't put as many as I wanted to. I decided to like be cool. I have a lot
it
of
could
books.
it couldn't
I
be because your wish list or to read list is so long, could it?
it's so long.
uh,
I fell
uh,
so far behind. I blame it on kids, honestly. I just don't. Well, okay, great news. My son is starting first grade. He will
woohoo!
likely be in an after school program. And
Yay, donut.
my second son is starting daycare. So Grimlock and Donut will be out of the
Yay.
house. So I can have free time and maybe I'll read more books.
Mm,
Maybe. My goal every year, because I do rereads all year long. I always reread books that I already love. My goal every year is to read 15 new books.
mm-hmm.
And so far I've been mostly keeping up with it. But sometimes I choose books that are so long, especially that
Yeah.
year that I decided to do Stormlight Archive. That slowed me down so much
Yeah.
because those books are so long. Um, I was telling Brian the other day, he was laughing about like he tends to read more nonfiction,
Mm-hmm.
and they tend to not be very long. And he was looking for a beach read, and he was joking about like, oh yeah, because if it's like 500 pages, and I like spit up my drink, I was like, only 500.
Right?
I was like, I listened to an audiobook that was 45 hours long. Like he was like, that's like more than a week of work. I was like, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I know.
Yeah.
And I listened to 4 of those because I listened to the whole series, and they just get longer and longer as you go on.
When I see a 500-page book, I'm like, oh, this is a walk in the park. When
Like,
I
I
see
can
a
do
book that's like
this.
250, I'm like, oh,
Do this on my lunch break.
you know, it's like a two
Let's
pound
see.
weight.
Where am I in my list for this year? Let's
Oh, I
see.
want to get mine too. Hold on.
Oh, I'm 12 books in. I'm 12 books in for my 15 new books for the year.
Hold on. Let
And
me
I have
see.
quite the TBR.
Oh my
So
God, me
I have a
too.
lot of options.
Every time I read it, I try not to get depressed.
I'm going to read Elantris next. I'm also reading Fire Cannot Kill a Dragon. It's a book about the making of Game of Thrones. But since with that, I'm just kind of doing a chapter here and a chapter there. I'm not really reading it straight through. So I'll probably be reading that one for a while. So Elantris is next. After Elantris, I will probably read what's it called? The sequel to Good Luck Girls. What's that called?
The Reckoners, which I'm
The
currently reading.
Yes, I'll probably read that after I read Elantris.
Oh wait, maybe it's The Reckoning. I think The
The
Reckoners is
Reckoning.
is another series by Brandon
Oh,
Sanderson.
it is The Reckoning. I see it
The
over there.
Reckoning,
Sisters,
yeah,
sisters.
of The Reckoning.
Yeah, sisters. Sorry, Sisters of the Wreck. I'm looking at my bookshelf over there.
Yeah,
What else do I have to read? I don't know. There's a lot, but those are like my next two that I'm gonna
yeah.
read. Do you have anything coming up that you're gonna read for sure?
Yeah, I'm fit. I try to go for 30. So I'm like 15 of my 30 books in for the rest of the
For
year.
new, like new
Yeah,
books.
new books. I subtracted rereads from there. Um, and I say, what am I? I'm reading Sisters of the Reckoning right now.
Oh, I wish I could do 30. These freaking kids.
Let's see, what else? What am I currently reading? Currently reading. So Sisters of the Reckoning. Um, I think I want to read The Furies of Calderon, the second book in the series, because I read that and it was so good. It was a little bit of a slow burn for me in the beginning, but then like the magic took off. Kind of reminds me of Avatar: The Last Airbender, the way that people have magic. It's all kind of elemental. I'm reading White Teeth by Zadie Smith, which is my subway read, and that's been really, really interesting, and really funny. Like she's really funny in a way that like you don't expect. Um, then I have my two Brandon Sanderson secret novels that I haven't read yet because I've been saving
Oh, I read
them.
those immediately as soon as they came. It's so good.
I'm
And then,
excited for you that you're reading Elantris because Elantris is actually his first book.
right, you told me that. Yeah, I'm at the very beginning. I just started it.
Yeah.
Um, I wanted to finish my second read of Stormglass for today, so I had to put Elantris on hold and like finish. I literally finished it last night at like 11:30.
Oh man, I love it. I'm so glad you
um,
enjoyed it.
oh, another thing that I should post in the comments is I am raising money for my local library, the New York Public Library Harlem branch. I'm trying to raise $1,000. So far, I've only raised 50, but shout out to that donor who donated $50 anonymously. I will post that in the link as well because I think it is very important to support your local library.
Yes.
Um, and so they allow you to set up your own, uh, you know, they allow you to set up your own sorry, no, like something fell in my glass. They allow you to set up your own fundraiser. I'm pulling up the link now and I'll drop it
Oh,
in
that's
there.
awesome. Yeah, drop it in the chat. I feel
Yeah.
like I should do something benevolent and altruistic for my birthday, but we'll think about that. So I just want to wish everyone, real quick, a happy Leo season.
Hey.
Hey, we are here. We have arrived. Tanya and I both have August birthdays, so we will be doing all the things, which is why we're taking next month off.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're taking next month off, but we will be back in September. On September 10th, our book club read is A Brave New World.
It is.
Yeah,
I
I
forgot.
have. I just looked at my calendar. It says Brave New World. So
Oh, I'm so excited about
I know
that.
I haven't read that in years.
I completely forgot about even
Surprise!
I know. I'm like really excited now. I love that book.
Yeah,
Oh
it's
man.
so
Okay, I
good.
found the link. My donate link. Let's see here. Copy. All right, I'm posting my link for. So when you donate to New York Public Library, um, you can choose which library the money goes to. And so I chose the Harlem branch because obviously I live in Harlem, and it's called the Harlem branch. Like Harlem has multiple branches, but this one is specifically called the Harlem branch. There's also the Aguilar branch, the Harry Belafonte branch, the 125th Street branch, but the Harlem branch is the one I go to. It's on 124th Street and Fifth Ave. I go there a lot. They do a lot of programs for kids. They also, I mean, they do a lot of programs for adults too, but I use their programs for kids. I take Grimlock to story time. I take Donut to, they have like a STEM program twice a week where you can bring home, you can do a science project and then you can bring it home to do another one at home. Donut also got his first library card when he turned 5, but he hasn't checked any
Cute.
books out yet. So we're gonna check. He's reading, so we're gonna check out some books and you know get him reading. But they need the money to keep doing these things because obviously they're all free. And so yeah, I just decided I was gonna do that as my fundraiser this year, and, I'm gonna keep it up for the rest of the year. I'm not gonna like end it, even if I hit $1,000. I'll keep it because
Oh, good.
I have a yeah. I'm gonna keep it up. I have a automatic donation every month to that branch. It's small. It's $5, but you can with my link you can also sign up if you want to do like a monthly donation, and it doesn't have to be that branch. You can choose for whatever you want. You could look up Brooklyn Public Library or wherever you live, your public
Hmm.
library. But
Your local library.
I'm just all about supporting the local libraries because they provide so many services
Hmm.
and they're free, and people should make use of them. What made me think of the library was that we were talking about what we want to read, and I want to read the Court of Thorns and Roses series, Sarah J.
Oh,
Maas.
yeah.
Yeah, but I was like, I cannot buy another series right now, so I'll probably check those out at the library. So that's
Using the
where,
Libby app.
yes, I use the Libby app for ebooks. You can also use, what is it called? Over
Overdrive.
Overdrive.
I think they might be
Um,
phasing that out though.
oh, really?
Yeah.
They also have Simply E, which I've never used, but I use Libby really.
When you want
Um,
to roll into your books.
yeah, I use Libby. Sometimes I pick them up in person if they have them in person. I try to do ebooks as much as I can,
Yeah.
just to like save myself uh, things to carry.
Hmm.
But I check stuff out too. So anyway, my point was that I was gonna probably check out those books from the library when I get around to reading them.
Yeah.
So that's on my list as well.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of what else I have on my. I mean, I keep walking places and like spending lots of money on books that I should not spend on books, or finding free books, and I'm looking at like 6 of them over there, which are now also on my to do or to read list. Um, I don't know. Maybe we'll just like share a stack of books. We'll do on our Instagram. We'll share a stack of books that we're like
Okay.
interested in and or that are
Because
on
I
our
still
reading
need to
list.
read Song of Achilles. I bought that ages
Oh,
ago
right, 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 right.
because I read Circe and I went and got Song of Achilles and then I haven't read it. I have the what is it called? Master of Poisons is another one I picked up that I haven't read.
That's on my
It's
to
on
read
your list.
list. Anansi
Yeah.
Boys is also on my to read
Oh,
list.
that one is so good. I love Anansi
Can't wait.
Boys.
Um,
I can't wait for you to read that.
yeah, there's a bunch of stuff over here that I'm looking at. I started reading The Siren's Call by Jessica Cage, who is a black speculative fiction fantasy writer. But I think I'm gonna have to skip the first like 5 or 6 pages because there's a trigger warning in the beginning of the book, but I really wasn't ready for where it was leading me, and I don't know that I want to like have those words burned in my mind. So I'm sure it's gonna be great, but like just know
Yeah.
that it's gonna get dark within like a page and a half.
What else is on my TBR? I'm trying to think. I'm literally just trying to think about what's in my bookshelf at my bed.
Oh gosh.
Um, I can't remember. I'd have to go look. But yeah, I'll post a stack.
Yeah, I'll post.
I'm not even looking at what's TBR on my Kindle. That has
Yeah,
gone
geez, no, that's
so
out of
far out
control.
of control that like I just don't even know. It's actually frightening. I try to avoid it. It's when I'm done reading my physical books, and then I'm like, huh, what should I read next? I just go to Kindle and see what's unread, and then I shiver because I'm just like, when did I get all these books?
Yeah, for real. It's like I was doing this thing where where I was trying to read one Kindle book and one physical book, like and
Hmm.
alternate. Um, but
Sometimes
then
I
I
try
just
to
get
do both at the
the
same time.
I do both at the same time.
Like I have one physical book, one Kindle book, and one audio book. And
Yeah.
so I can go through so I can get through three at a time. And so like I'll
Mm.
use the Kindle book for when I have to commute. I listen to my audiobook when I'm walking around in the city, and then I
Mm.
use my physical book at bedtime.
Are your audiobooks for rereads or just for first timies?
Mostly rereads.
Yeah.
I've done audiobooks for first time reads for like books that are based off movies I've seen. I mean,
Ah,
books that are the basis for movies I've seen.
got it.
So
I
like
found that I have a hard time with them when I haven't read them, but
I have
maybe
a
I would do
really
it
hard
for
time.
biographies. It's probably good.
Oh my gosh, I tell everybody read Mariah Carey's memoir as an
Yeah.
audiobook. It's an excellent audiobook. Um, yeah, it's really hard for
Check
me
that
to
out right now.
follow. Hmm?
I'm gonna check that out right now.
It's so good. She narrates it herself, and
Ooh, okay, Mimi.
yeah, she's absolutely amazing. Like, so much of her personality comes through, and she gets into like a lot of the stuff that we remember from the early 2000s, where it was like Mimi went crazy. Like she talks about
Mm,
everything. Um, and she has music in it, and she sings little things because it's her narrating her own life. So
right, right.
she goes full Mariah is what I'll
I
say.
love
She
it.
goes full Mariah, and I absolutely adored it. I listened to it, and I would listen to it again. That one I listened to as a first read. I have the physical book as well. I've never read the physical one. My friend sent it to me. I got it in the mail one day and was like, I definitely didn't order this. Where did it come from? Then I was like, I know exactly where this came from. Sarah sent it to me. And so
Right.
I text Sarah, and of course she was like, yep, I sure did order you a copy when it came out. So
That's so
that
sweet.
one's really good. Yeah. Buy me books.
Mhm. Books, books, books. Yeah. Word.
Read Stormglass.
Read
It's
Stormglass.
really good. Mirrorgate is the second one, I think, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna read that
Yeah.
soon. After Elantris, maybe I'll read Mirrorgate.
Yeah.
And then kind of go back and forth between Wax and Wayne and Harbinger for a
Oh,
while.
yeah. That will be a solid year if you finish it out that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Word.
All
Let us
right.
know what you're reading.
Let us know what you're reading. Tell us on Twitter. Don't tell us on Facebook
Tell
because
us on Instagram. We hate Facebook.
we're
Or
just not
I
there.
hate
Nikki hates
Facebook.
Facebook, and I'm honestly not there a lot with our page, but Twitter and Instagram, A Thousand Eyes on One on Instagram, Thousand Eyes One on Twitter, and of course, Wine on an Empty Stomach on Instagram. Tell us what you're reading. Tell us what you think we should read, and have some fun. Buy
Make
me
it
some books.
500 pages or less.
Yeah, yeah. Give me some short books for once, so I can like read them quickly. Buy me some books. Donate to the public library. Support your local library.
Yes.
And yeah, that's it.
That's it.
Any closing remarks? All
Happy
right
Leo
then. Happy Leo season.
season.
And that's a wrap. Bye, y'all.